Because we buy things only for one reason. Okay? We buy things to make money.
Yeah.
Okay?
We sell things.
We sell things for 100 reasons.
Many
okay?
reasons.
So, in the case of Alibaba, one of the reasons I sold Alibaba was for tax loss harvesting. Okay? And there were actually two reasons why we sold Alibaba. Probably more than two, but two are at least enough to justify it. Is that I had studied and learned about Tencent and Prosus after we had made the Alibaba investment. And after we made the Alibaba investment, the stock went down, and Prosus and Tencent also went down, but we hadn't invested in it yet. And it was really simple. If I sold Alibaba, we got the tax loss harvest. And one of the problems with tax loss harvesting is you can buy back the same security after 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And in the 30 days, it can move. So it can move against you. So you might have bought a stock at 250 and you might have sold it at 180, let's say, with the idea in 30 days I'll buy it back. But if it goes to 220 in 30 days, that's not and it's hard to control that.
Right.
What I did with the Tencent Alibaba deal was I sold Alibaba. I moved the proceeds to Prosus, not Tencent, because Prosus is even better than Tencent. And I never needed to buy Alibaba back again because I thought the Tencent business was superior to the Alibaba business. So it was killing multiple birds with one stone, where I'm moving from a business that's good to a business that's even better. I get the tax loss harvest, and I would have been willing to buy Prosus at the higher price. I still got it at a lower price, so it's all okay.
So over these last couple of months, we've heard from both Mohnish Pabrai, Guy Speir, and a couple other guru investors that they've recently taken a position with a Dutch company called Prosus. Now, Prosus is a spin-off from a South African company called Naspers, and what they're most famous for is making an investment with a Chinese company called Tencent around 20 odd years ago, where they invested $30 million into the company called Tencent, which has obviously grown quite substantially over the last 20 odd years, compounding at around 53% per annum. Today worth currently around 200 billion. So they've done incredibly well with that, and they've held that company that entire time. Only recently in the last sort of year or so where they've actually trimmed that position back a little bit, where they currently hold around 28.9% last time I checked. So that's the company we're going to be talking about today briefly, and that is Prosus. Now, we don't know exactly when both Mohnish Pabrai and Guy Speir and Rob Vanel were buying into Prosus, but it's fair to assume it was probably over the last couple of months, or last 3 months even possibly, and we have seen the price drop back quite substantially over this last sort of few weeks. Now, the big attraction, I think, for both Mohnish Pabrai and Guy Speir and also Rob Vanel was that Prosus is currently trading below its net asset value, and with this recent pullback, it's currently around that 50 to 55, even 60% below the net asset value. Now, it depends on what sort of value you put on their listed assets, also their unlisted assets, or you could almost write that off entirely and it's still trading below its net asset value as well, but that's entirely up to you. I'll leave a link in the description to their website so you can sort of work through what they've got there, but from my rough calculation, I'm sort of saying it's around 50% below net asset value. But like I mean, by all means, do your own research on that. You may have a better understanding of a lot of these companies within their portfolio as well. Obviously, Tencent is the behemoth in that portfolio, but they do have stakes within a number of different companies, which they have been facing some criticism most recently by a guy by the name of Sean Pesh, who was sort of criticizing the Prosus management for buying into these overly priced tech companies, especially more in the food delivery space, paying like 130 times earnings and such. So it's definitely sort of something to be wary of there. Maybe they're overpaying for these. It's hard to know exactly. People maybe even criticised them back in the day when they brought into Tencent. So I'm still not overly upset about this. Obviously, it's something you want to be wary of. You don't want to see them slowly selling off Tencent and just putting into more and more loss-making businesses. But they definitely invest with a long-term horizon. I've watched a number of different interviews from Bob Van Dijk, the CEO, and he was always sort of referring that he's investing for the long-term horizon, which is sort of proven within their Tencent investment. Obviously, they've held that for 20 years, which is remarkable that they've managed to do that. It goes down in history as one of the greatest investments of all time almost, and holding it as well, not selling it when it doubled or tripled or quadrupled. They just held that investment and it's just grown to what it is today, to the point where it's heavily disrupting the South African Stock Exchange, which in turn caused them to spin it out onto the Dutch exchange as well to try and unlock some of that value. Now, big things we don't know, will this gap ever close between what it's currently trading at and their net asset value? Will it reach back up to its net asset value? Hard to say, but I like buying it at something. To me, it seems like a good deal at these prices. I do personally have a position with Prosus, and I have wrote a couple of put options and also bought some call options more recently as well, as we've seen the price pull back to around that sort of 55 euros. But that's just currently what I'm doing with Prosus. By no means is this a buy recommendation. I definitely recommend you do some research on this, but it is looking very attractive, I feel, at these current prices. We're buying it currently below what Mohnish Pabrai, Guy Speir, and even the CEO, Bob van Dijk, he bought around $10 million worth back in early January as well. So obviously they all saw it at good value at that price, and now it's even pulled back quite substantially since then as well. Now, I'd love to hear from you guys. What are your current thoughts on Prosus or Naspers or Tencent? Are you currently buying or selling? Definitely drop that in the comments below, or any other good information that you may have, especially when it's negative information. I've been sort of trying to do a bit more research on the management team, in particular Bob van Dijk. They have been copping a bit of criticism recently over some of the acquisitions and also their high salaries. So any sort of information or dirt you've got on them, or if you know when exactly both Mohnish Pabrai and Guy Speir brought in and what sort of allocation they have in their portfolio as well, I'd love to know that. Anyway, with that said, if you enjoyed today's video, please do us a favor, hit that like button before you go. Helps me out a lot and I appreciate it. And also, if you're new here, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date when the next video drops. Alright, cheers. We'll catch you in the next video. Cheers, guys.